Welcome to the Vol Bros presented by the Ooltewah Club. My name is Evan. This is my brother Ruston. We are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And man, oh man, what a day for college football as a whole. I think that things have happened over the last 24 hours that could potentially change the future of the college football playoff, maybe even the future of conference championship games. Who knows? So a lot of stuff's going on right now. We have a fun show tonight. So we're going to have first we're going to talk about our season grades for football. Then we're going to reveal the our college football playoff brackets live on air here. Be a fun time. We're not doing a pick'em challenge like we were for March Madness, but we will have some fun with it. Along those lines, we have an announcement. We have a official winner of the college football pick'em challenge, the Vol Bros college football pick'em challenge. As everybody knows, 3 people tied. It's the first time ever we had a tie at the end of 14 weeks. 3 people all tied with the same record. It was like 85 and 29 or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but 3 people tied for the lead. So conference championship weekend was the tiebreaker. And if needed, a second tiebreaker was the score prediction for the SEC championship game. All 3 people, there were 5 games, 5 conference championship games. All 3 people picked the exact same winner for all 5 conference championship games. So the first tiebreaker went out the window. It was done immediately. So we had to immediately go to the second tiebreaker. 2 of the people had the exact same score prediction for the SEC championship game. They both predicted Georgia to win 20-17. The third person predicted a 27-20 Georgia win. And so since that one had a wider margin of victory, that person won. So Brady Bulldogs, congratulations. You are the winner of the $50 Alumni Hall gift card. So that's very exciting. By far and away the closest year we've ever had on that. I already got a bunch of people in the comments. I love it. We're going to try to do as many of those tonight as we can, but we got a packed show. So we're going to dive in. This first part will probably be the best time for you to comment. I am going to put this up. Richard is back home. He's been in Oregon. He's been in Arizona. He is finally back in Tennessee. Welcome back home, Richard. As always, we are so thrilled to have this special guest with us tonight. Mr. Reed Carringer is with us tonight. Reed, welcome.
What's up, guys? Good to be here.
It is always a treat to have Reed with us. And he didn't know I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it right now. As a thank you to Reed from the Vol Bros, any super chat we get tonight is going to Reed. So we'd love it if you'd show maybe $1 or something appreciation to Reed. That'd be amazing. That'd be incredible. So any super chat we get tonight will go to Reed. Thank you so much, Reed, for taking time to be with us.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate y'all doing that. Always love talking Vols, sports in general, life with you and everybody who comments. You got a good crew here.
I totally agree. Jonathan said, welcome back. Eric said he loves your guitars back there.
A little different setup today. So actually in the house, not the detached office, because I'm multitasking and trying to put the kids to bed while doing this somehow. So
not an easy job. Jared just asked a question that I'm sure we'll get to eventually. He said thoughts on teams opting out of bowl games. So that was a big deal today. So first thing we're going to do though, because we will get, hey, Brendan's excited to see Reed too. First thing we're going to get to do is give our position grades for the football team from this season. Now, we would love, as we go through each one of them, we would love for you to let us know your position grades in the comments as well. This will probably be the best time tonight for us to get some comments on the screen because we got so much to do later. We're going to start with quarterback. Reed, we will start with you. The quarterback position for Tennessee football 2025, what is your position grade for that?
Well, there's 2 ways to do this, guys, and I kind of went with it relative to expectation. Heading into the season, I think I was on the show with you all right before the season talking about season predictions and things. And so QB, I went B+. That might be too low, honestly, given what Aguilar was able to do in such a short time for Tennessee. One of the best passing seasons in Tennessee history, if you look at yardage. 330 plus yards per game against ranked teams was Joey Aguilar this year, which was over 100 more than Diego Pavia threw for against ranked teams. One at Florida, which we have not seen happen since 2020 or 2003, excuse me. So a lot of positive checks for Joey, and then some of the things we talked about before the season, guys, was we'll take some turnovers if the passing game is better and you're hitting on the deep ball. Well, we saw that too, so had to take him down from an A. Couple costly turnovers, Bama, Oklahoma, that may or may not have been his fault. That I do think took that grade down for me, but I went B plus. Really close to being an A for Joey. Would love to have him back for another year, obviously. Was really impressed with what he was able to do in just really a couple months to prepare for Tennessee's offense. One of the best quarterbacks in the SEC and the country.
Totally agree. A couple of things. Nolan said, Reed, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that very much. Mina Likey, awesome. Thank you so much. She gave a $2 super chat. She said, love when you're here, Reed. Thank you so much for that. And any super chats we get tonight are going to go to Reed. We surprised him with that. He's always so generous to us with his time. So we're going to do that for him tonight. Ruston, what was your position grade for? Oh, wait, this is a good question. Elijah said, are we doing just like in general or based on what was expected of that position? So that is, go ahead, Reed.
I went expectations, but we didn't collude before the show on the parameters for this. No collusion here, maybe unlike the playoff committee.
It is up to your interpretation. We'll put it that way, Elijah, whatever you think. I kind of went on based on expectations personally. But that's totally up to you, Elijah. Ruston, what was your position grade for the quarterback position?
Yeah, I went the same path Reed did. I would have given him an A if not for Alabama and Oklahoma. Because of those, I gave him a B. You got to show up at the big games too.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much, man. He said, for the man, the myth, the legend, Reed. Hey, I appreciate that. Hey, thank you so much.
I'll take my kids to lunch. Thank y'all.
That is awesome. Absolutely. Here was my grade for Joey. I had to give him an A simply because the guy got here in late May, early June. He learned the whole offense in less than 3 months. And he was able to, they had, at least from an outsider's perspective, they had a vastly superior options within the playbook with Joey than they did last year with Nico. Nico was in really, when you really stop and think about it, Nico's season last year, he had been at Knoxville for over 2 years, essentially, that he had to learn that offense. And then Joey comes in 2 months, and we're running plays that we never even began to call with Nico at the helm. So the fact that they trusted Joey so much, I mean, the guy led the SEC in passing yards. It vastly exceeded expectations, in my opinion. So that's why I gave him an A. I was not as generous on other grades, but that was tough. I mean, the dude led the SEC in passing yards, so I had to go A with that one.
Go ahead. Can I interject there for just 1 second, Evan? Yeah, he was 19th in the country in passer rating this year. Nico Iamaleava finished 100th in the nation at UCLA, and he was 32nd last year. So it was a really good year for the quarterback position for Tennessee relative to what could have been and was the previous season. So I definitely get the A. I thought about, this was the one I thought about the longest, Evan and Ruston. This was the one that I debated on the longest.
Absolutely. Oriole Puppy Dog said A-. Blake said he gave a B for the quarterback and F to the whole defense.
F-. That's an F-.
Elijah said A- for the quarterback. Eric said Joey was a dog this year. Rebel Juice, he said he loves your Telecaster behind you in the Les Paul. He said he's a Gibson guy. His first was a Fender Telecaster. That's what I'm talking about. John said, I give the quarterbacks an A. Joey exceeded expectations. I totally agree. Absolutely. Blake said his expectations for the season changed after Georgia. And I think that's a good point. I think a lot of people could say that. And a lot of that was based on Joey's performance. Let's see here. Some of the other comments came through. Stingray said, hopefully if Joey gets to play, I believe Coach Heupel will make him a better quarterback with less interceptions if he's granted another year.
Long shot, but would love to see it, obviously.
I mean, Tennessee would love it. That's for sure. We'll see. Tony's given his position grades for defense, so I'll come back to that in a little bit because we'll get to that.
It's going to get dark.
Stingray said defense has an incomplete grade. Let's see. Billy said
didn't meet attendance requirements.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right. Yeah. Joey said he gives Nico, or excuse me, not Nico. Billy said he gave Joey an A. Man, I'm struggling. There you go. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Our next category is running backs. Now, this was a fascinating one for me. This may have been the toughest one that I went back and forth on. Reed, what'd you give the running backs?
This was tough too. The rest of the way, I felt pretty confident. I gave the running backs a B, and I kind of wallowed around on that one a little bit, to use an East Tennessee term. Eighth ranked rushing attack in the conference, so right bam in the middle of the pack. I didn't like the drops in the passing game we saw really from everybody out of the backfield. I thought those were
That's a great point.
Those were killer. So that was if I'm grading this on a rubric, I'm not a professor, but if I was, you're getting points off for drops in the passing game. That said, I think Bishop was a top 5 back in the SEC. If you really look at it, would have liked to have seen him get handed the ball more. So I can't really put that on him. Liked what Star Thomas did. Peyton Luce banged up. I don't think it was a failure, but this has been one of the best rushing attacks in the conference in the Hype era, and it wasn't this year. Some of that's on the backs. Some of it's on the offensive line, which we're going to get to. So gave him a B. Really excited about another year of Deshaun Bishop back there, coming up.
Richard, thank you so much for that, buddy. He gave $20. Said, thanks, guys, for the hours spent this year on my beloved Vols. Thank you, buddy. That is awesome.
I appreciate you, Richard.
Rustin, what was your grade for the running back room?
I gave them an A. I felt like they ran hard all year. I also felt like because of how hard they ran, even sometimes in spite of the offensive line, that's what really created positive momentum for Joey. They ran so hard that it caused people to have to step up and honor them. And that's what opened up some passing lanes and some deep balls for Joey. So I gave them an A mainly because even on nights when the offensive line was struggling, they were still doing everything they could to get every yard they could.
Yep, I think that's fair too. This one, it was tough. I went with a B. Rustin and I and Reed certainly was singing their praise as well that's before the season, but a lot of people going into this season did not expect hardly anything out of a running back room, especially national media. And I think that's because they just didn't know what Tennessee had back there. Rustin and I, in our preseason show, we were talking about, position previews and stuff like that. And both of us said, man, this running back room, they're going to surprise a lot of folks. And Reed said the same thing. And I think they did. Deshaun Bishop had a breakout season. I agree with Reed that the lack of ability to catch the ball out of the backfield was frustrating at times. And that hit all of them. I mean, Star Thomas had several drops. Deshaun had several drops. But overall, when you look at the season, a C is average. It's supposed to be, at least. The running back room was certainly above average. And so I had to give them a B. Do I think that they had the impact that everybody was hoping for. Maybe not quite. So maybe a B plus would be better, but I gave him a B simply because do I think they could have had a better year? Yeah. It was frustrating. And I guess part of this goes on coaching, but it was frustrating that we didn't use Star Thomas more than we did. That was one of the more frustrating parts of the season, in my opinion. I don't think it was anything on the level of like Alvin Kamara and Butch Jones type misuse, but I do think we could have used him more effectively because Duke can flat out run the rock, and we did not get him the ball enough. But that's just part of having so many weapons. How do you feed them all enough? So I went with B with that one. Some of the other folks said, Billy said, I think we would have done much better without those drops for sure. Eric said Star Thomas needed to play more, but overall a B. Jared said running back was B minus. We threw the ball a lot more than past years, and that's true. We did. That's why we had a guy leading the SEC in passing yards, so the running backs didn't have quite the same opportunity. And you know what? Maybe coming off of Dylan Sampson's banner year, it's hard to live up to anything like that, I guess. Jonathan said solid B for the running backs. Would have been an A if Star would have been used better. Oh, there you go. So he kind of was thinking the same thing I was. Elijah said a good B for the running backs. Think Star need. Oh, Elijah was thinking the same thing I was too. Let's see here. David gave his wide receiver one. That's our next one, so we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's see here. Jared. He said, I wish you told my mom a C was average while I was at school. And Eric agreed. He said,
send her the link. Send her the link.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Blake said B for the running backs. Rebel G said, do you think Star will hit the portal? Well, Star's out of eligibility now. So he is done. Unless, well, no, he wouldn't even fall into the Pavia category because he's done. So this is it for Star. All right. Well, that moves us on to the wide receiver room. This was, in my opinion, maybe the easiest. Reed, what'd you grade the wide receivers?
Yeah, I'm curious to see if we have a consensus here. I gave him an A minus. The minus for a few drops in big spots that are, took some points off the board. And I know you're going to have that, especially when you're throwing the ball at the volume that Tennessee is. But that you can't, if it hits you in the hands, I would say about half of Joey's picks probably hit Tennessee's receivers in the hands. I was charting it there for a while, and then I gave up. But I think you got 3 700-yard receivers. This was a really good receiving core. Braylon Staley had one of the best freshman campaigns of any wide receiver that I can remember at Tennessee. And I think you look at, Brazel, the guy that kind of struggled previously with some drops and being consistent, had just a massive year. And Mike Matthews took a giant step forward. I think the development of the group was huge. I think both for this season and the future of the program. And I was the best receiving core in the conference, and excited to see what that group can do moving forward, and got some more talent coming in as well. But I gave them an A minus. The minus for, again, grading Professor Reed over here, grading on a rubric. A few big drops, get a little points off for me, but what a fun group, that was really slept on for the year and headed into the season anyway. And they really kind of silenced the critics of Tennessee's wide receiver coaching, Tennessee's passing game. Impressed with those guys. I buy Braylon Staley stock, if you can now.
Amen. Brennan, thank you so much, buddy. He just gave $19.99 super chat. He said, "Take the kids somewhere fun, Reed."
I appreciate it, guys. I've been solo dadding it all weekend or since Thursday, so. I appreciate it. Been hanging a lot with I got girls that are 4 and 6, so it's been a fun weekend. But a little bit of a struggle to get this together tonight. So I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate your efforts because I know it wasn't easy. To the 231 people watching across all 3 platforms right now, Thank you so much. 234 just jumped up. Thank you so much for watching with us. Any super chat tonight is going straight to Reed. So we surprised him with that tonight as a thank you to him for how generous he is with us all the time. So we appreciate you so much. Ruston, how'd you grade the receivers?
Same answer, A- for the drops. If Mike Matthews had shown up a little more consistently, I probably would have done A across the board because Braylon Staley and Chris Brazzell had great years. But Mike Matthews dropped the grade a little bit.
Well, I agree with both of y'all about Braylon Staley. I think if anybody looks at last year and then looks at this year, it is undeniable. Braylon Staley is the most improved player on Tennessee's football team. And I don't know how people could argue with it, honestly. And I'll give you prime example. Last year in the playoff game at Ohio State, I invite everybody to go back and watch it. I think it happened in the fourth quarter. There is one play where it just so happened that they switched to the camera that was, right above the Tennessee sideline, looking down the line of scrimmage, essentially. And Braylon Staley was split out on the side closest to the Tennessee sideline. So I will never forget it. I was like, are you kidding me? That seriously just happened. If you go back and watch it, Braylon is looking like this over to the sideline, facing the camera, because the camera's behind the Tennessee sideline. So Braylon's looking this way, trying to get the play call. The whole offense is happening back here behind him. As he's looking this way, the ball is snapped and the whole play begins to be run. And he's still looking over here as the whole play is happening behind him. And I was like, oh my goodness. It was the most embarrassing thing I think that happened that whole game. And then this year he comes out and they couldn't stop him. Nobody could stop him. The guy was phenomenal. So in my opinion, Braylon is easily the most improved player on the team this year. Had a phenomenal year. They showed his, stats among freshmen in the country, and he was like first in the SEC in everything, second or third in the country among freshman receivers for everything else. I mean, it was amazing the year he had. But that was another criteria I used for this group. Before the season started, everybody knew this was our, what's a good word to use? Not thinnest, but maybe that's a good word. We had the least amount of depth in this position group than any other position on the team. I mean, really, you had, really 6 scholarship wide receivers. If somebody got hurt, we were in trouble, like bad.
And they stayed on the field, to their credit. Yeah, good point.
Exactly. The top 3 receivers who played almost every down, every meaningful down the entire season, they never got injured. They stayed in there the entire time. And that was a huge deal in my book. So with their performance, my goodness, against Kentucky, I think it was Kentucky, we had 3 100-yard receivers in the same game for the first time in over a decade. This was a banner year for the wide receivers. So I gave them an A because they exceeded expectations in my mind. Chris Brazzell did not jump up in the air every time he tried to catch a ball this year. That is improvement. That was his kryptonite last year, was he always left his feet. Even when he didn't have to, he always left his feet. And he fixed that over the offseason. He didn't do that this year. I just think there's so many positive things we could say about the receivers. So they got an A from me.
Went from bust. Brazzell went from, kind of supposed bust to one of the best receivers in the country in a few months, right. Essentially. Really impressive, the work. And we talk about coaching a lot here, but impressive the work that he put in and the willingness to put in the work he needed to compete at the top level of football. Really fun. Really fun. I don't have it hanging up in here, but my favorite player growing up was Jerry Rice. So I've always been a receiver dork, and I love watching wide receivers. So it was a fun year as a fan of the position for me and Tennessee.
And to your point, Reed, you made a great point. Last year everybody's like, man, was this he was so highly touted coming out of the transfer portal. Was this a bust? To this year, he was a semifinalist for the Blitnikoff Award. So, I mean, like, just a huge improvement. Huge. Made it to the semifinal round of the voting for Blitnikoff. David said A+ for the wide receivers. Let's see here. Some of the other grades. Eric said A- for the wide receivers. Elijah said A++++ for the wide receivers. That's a lot of pluses. I like that. That was good. Let's see. Eric did say, there were some unfortunate drop passes as well. Oreo Puppy Dog said A-. He said there were, Eric said there were critical drop passes. Blake said A for the wide receivers. Tony said Mike Matthews gets a C- at best. Mike had some good catches. He did have a really, really bad drop against Vanderbilt, but that we can't let recency bias get the too much of best of us. Eric's, go ahead, Reed.
That one hurt, and who knows? That's just a momentum killer, and you can't have those plays, especially when we're going to get to the defense here shortly. When you've got Tennessee's defense, you can't have the momentum killing plays on offense. That offense has to be the aggressor, has
Absolutely.
to be putting the stress on the other team, and that was a big one. I was in the end zone where I sit there, south end zone, and you could just feel the stadium deflate after that.
Absolutely. Jonathan said A- for the wide receivers. Could have easily been A+ with less drops. Razzle was the only 1,000-yard receiver in the SEC. Great point. Eric said, Reed, I hope your girls have a very Merry Christmas.
Appreciate it, guys and gals.
Eric said Mike Matthews was supposed to be a standout, and he didn't impress me. He certainly started the year off really strong and then kind of stumbled a little bit mid-season and didn't totally regain it back. Let's see. Just trying to find. There's a lot of comments here. Trying to find wide receiver grades. I'm not seeing. Amina Lackey asked Reed, "Is that a big orange guitar?"
It is. You can see the Power T back there, and it's got the Vols star logo on the headstock. I think it's a 2001 model that they only made for, I think it was 12 or 14 schools. So Tennessee is one, and that one, I'm never getting rid of that one.
Richard said Braylon Staley has a great attitude, tireless worker. He's going to be special. Absolutely.
I'm really excited about his potential. Who knows what the quarterback position looks like, but next year, teams are going to have to scheme for him in that slot position too for Tennessee's offense, and I think he can be a real difference maker. Whether his numbers explode or not, he's going to open things up for the rest of the core and the rest of the offense, because he seemed like he was always in the right place. Had good chemistry with Joey, and to your point, Evan, big change from last year when he wasn't sure what was going on. Just massive step forward, and he's going to is already one of the best receivers in the conference, and next year could be one of the best out of that position. And Tennessee's offense, we've seen it before. That, and Ruston's talked about it specifically, I think, here, is when you've got a good slot receiver, it really changes the offense.
Yep. Well, we need to enjoy him next year, because if he has another year like this year, he will not be back after next year.
Right.
Well, we need to enjoy it. Well, let's move on to tight end. This was actually my lowest graded position on offense. Reed, what did you grade the tight ends?
Well, that was a group that I had a lot of hope for headed into the season.
Amen.
And I think injuries really hurt. Kitzelman never really seemed to be healthy or right after having a really good year the previous season. Ethan Davis been banged up kind of his whole career, but I think injuries hurt it more than talent, I guess, is my overall point. That it was my lowest grade on offense too. I gave him a C. Might could have gone lower there. I did think, Ethan Davis late in the season getting back on the field was really big for Tennessee and kind of showed his potential moving forward. Really loved his athleticism. and I think he can be a mismatch in the passing game. Run blocking was okay at times. Again, injuries, rotating personnel. It's kind of hard to grade the unit as a whole when you don't really have a unit as a whole because you're shuffling guys in and out.
Yeah.
You had some really big drops, from that position in key spots that I thought really hurt. So I
sure.
probably should have gone. Probably should have gone lower than C, but I'm going to stick with the with the show notes I typed up earlier. But those guys, so much potential, but they got to stay on the field, and you got to catch the ball when it's thrown to you.
Absolutely. Ruston, what about you?
I gave it a D. I felt like the combination of Miles Kitselman's drops, our inability to figure out how to use Ethan Davis and Deshaun Brame. I feel like they weren't great in the run game. They were adequate at times. Jack Van Dorselaer does a good job run blocking, but I saw too many whiffs from Ethan Davis. Miles Kitselman probably was playing injured most of the season. That definitely didn't bode well for him. But I felt, talking about preseason expectations, I felt overall that room greatly underachieved.
So I'm glad you mentioned Deshaun Brame because there was a play that happened. Oh, goodness. Was it the Vanderbilt game? I can't remember. Deshaun Brame was split out to the top side of the screen. I remember that, which would be the east side of the field. And we threw a screen pass to him, and it was not a good pass. The ball was barely off he caught it off his shoe tops. But the way he caught it was almost in stride. It was beautiful, and it reminded me. So I'm going to go a little throwback here. Reed, this goes all the way back to when you were on the beat. Von Pearson, he had 1 year at Tennessee, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember it was in preseason camp, and Vaughn made a catch in preseason camp that got all of Vol Nation on the Vaughn bandwagon. There was a ball that was thrown low, and he went down in stride and caught it almost off the ground and just kept going. Like I remember hearing Eric Ainge on the radio saying it was like when he caught it and went down and got back up, he was like, Vaughn, and just went down and got it. And that's how Eric described it. That was Deshaun Brame's catch against Vanderbilt. I mean, it was one of the best catches of any person on the team all year because he made it look so smooth and so effortless. It's a shame that Ethan Davis was injured for part of the year because, man, I think he could have had a monster year. Miles does not have the hands of Ethan Davis or Deshaun Brame, unfortunately. Miles could block better than both of them, but he does not have their hands. And so I kind of used the same criteria y'all did. I was thinking about expectations for the season. And unfortunately, they just didn't meet them. And so I started thinking about them compared to all of the rest of college football. And if C is average, then unfortunately, I think that they are pretty much average with the rest of college football, our tight end room. So I gave them a C grade for that reason, because they certainly weren't above average than a lot of, other college football teams. But I think they were probably about average. If you could take Miles Kitselman's blocking and give that person Ethan Davis or Deshaun Brame's hands, then we really got something going, So that's
that injuries. Just I think Kitselman was banged up most of the year, because he was a lot better than that last year, and he just seemed like he wasn't himself all season, and that's a bummer because to your point, Evan, all those guys with the pressure Tennessee's wide receivers put on the secondary. A lot of openings for the tight ends, which is why you saw some big drops in key spots, because I think Hype knew they were going to be open, trying to target them.
Absolutely.
And, couldn't make the plays. So,
absolutely.
I'm with you.
Oreo Puppy Dog said C- for tight end. Blake said D- for the tight ends. Let's see. So, no, he upgraded it. Originally it was D-. He said, I'll give him a D. Let's see. Or Puppy Dog said they did block well. Let's see. Jonathan said C-. Terrible tight end. Well, okay. You are correct, but only Tennessee would have this thing and be accurate. You know what I'm saying? Terrible tackling attempts from the tight end. Sadly, that was a thing this year. Massive moments in big games. That was a thing, unfortunately. Batting balls up in the air. Yeah, I mean, Joey's 2 interceptions at Mississippi State both hit Miles Kitzelman in the shoulder pad and bounced up in the air. I mean, if it hits you in the shoulder pad, you got to catch it. So
at least not send it to the other team.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Some of the other comments, let's see. Eric said we did have a lot of injuries in our tight end room. All right, cool.
I'm sure we'll talk big picture, here coming up, but Tennessee had a lot of bad injury luck this year, which we'll get to. Man. And tight ends definitely part of that group for me.
Yep.
Well, our last position group on offense, offensive line. What'd you give them, Reed?
That was a tough one too. You had some good and some bad for me this season. It's the lowest yards per carry in the Heupel era. If you think about that in year 5, and we gave the running backs a pretty good grade, right? So we think that's going to be on the offensive line. But it was also the fewest sacks they've ever allowed in the passing game by a lot this season. So only 18 sacks, among the leaders in the SEC. OU kind of got to them. Other than that, they did a really good job protecting Joey. Some of that is also on Joey. Getting rid of the football did a lot better than Nico and Joe Milton for sure. I thought he was decisive, showed a lot of command of the offense. So kind of hard to grade. I did think Tennessee's rushing attack would have been better this season. I thought Tennessee's run blocking, they didn't get a lot of push, not a lot of lanes opening. If you watch those games closely, the running backs, to I think Ruston's point, just did a good job of fighting for extra yards, maybe creating space when there wasn't a lot. So that was it's hard because I thought we're a lot better in pass pro, but worse in run blocking. So I wasn't sure, a lot of new players on the team too. So I didn't necessarily have super high expectations for this unit headed into the year. I think they honestly exceeded my expectations in the passing game. Didn't quite meet up to him on the running game, so I gave him a C+.
I think that's a very fair grade. Ruston, what about you?
Yeah, I would gauge. I kind of split the difference. I thought run blocking all year, I was highly critical of our run game. Felt like they just do not do a good job in the run game. I would have given them a D in run blocking, but pass pro, I thought they did a good job all year. I would have given them a B there. So I just split the difference and called it a C because I feel like they were just kind of average all year.
Yeah, that's fair. So I would have given it a C, but I tried very hard not to let recency bias in my mind. And I tried to go back to like July, early August. And y'all, this was I think everybody could agree, other than quarterback position, this was the biggest question mark on the whole team because they only had one returning starter from last year. That was it. So nobody knew what to expect from this offensive line. The expectations were not very high. And then all of a sudden, fall camp rolls around and Austin Price starts talking about how this is one of the bright spots on the offense, this offensive line, and what he's seen in fall camp. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Then we go, 4 or 5 games into the season, only allowing 1 sack, for the first 4 or 5 games, and that included Georgia. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, man, our offensive line is doing great. And so, unfortunately, later in the season, things started going a little bit south for them. I think part of that is coaches started watching game film from the first 4 or 5 games and realized, oh, if we bring this blitz package or something like that, they can't pick it up. And that started getting to us. So with all that being said, I gave them a B overall for the year because expectations were there were no expectations. Like nobody knew anything about this group. Only one returning starter. And I'm leaning into the first half of the season when they were doing great, and Joey was upright. That was I want to chase that feeling.
They probably, for the first time in I don't know how long, they played well enough to beat Georgia.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got to give them some points for that. And Heup's first year, Tennessee gave up 44 sacks, 18 this season. 18. So a lot of, I think a lot of bright spots we can point to, from this season, even if the record wasn't what we expected. And I think being able to piece together a new offensive front and have your best pass pro year out there is definitely one I would point to, even though I didn't give them a super high grade, but I did think it was nice to see him take a step forward in pass pro and compete with Georgia, who I think is obviously one of the best teams in the country.
Absolutely. Eric said B plus. Jonathan said C for the O-line. Let's see. That's a good point. He said we only had like 30 something rushing yards at Kentucky. That's a good point. Audrey said
inconsistent maybe is the best way to put that. Dominated the line of scrimmage at Florida and then couldn't run at Kentucky.
Absolutely. Yep. Audrey said A minus or B plus. We fell off maybe midway through the season for run blocking. The second half of the season was definitely much worse for the offensive line than the first half. Well, speaking of the offensive line, let's go to the other side of that line of scrimmage and do the defensive line. And there's some folks in the comments who have been begging us to get to this defense. So we are now at the defense. So Reed, what grade
time for me to go.
What grade did you give the defensive line, Reed?
All right. This was my probably best grade. It was my best grade for the defense. I gave the defensive line a B minus. I didn't have the expectations that I had for this unit last season or even the year prior when they were one of the best fronts in the country. A lot of new pieces. You lost some draft picks. I think when you've got Rodney Garner there, you're going to have a solid unit. So we knew they were going to be or hoped they would anchor the team, and they were the best unit on the team. They did. As far as the defense went, they were the best unit on the team. First year in Heupel's era, the Tennessee has not finished top 3 in the conference in tackles for loss. That starts at the point of attack, right? Because even if those defensive linemen are not getting those tackles, they are opening it up for the linebackers and the back end of that defense. They were 4th in the SEC in sacks, though. Tennessee, as a team this year, they got to be better versus ranked teams. I think we've seen this. Tennessee's defensive front showing up, beating up on some of the, not just the non-conference foes, but your kind of middling SEC teams and not being as impactful against ranked teams and the top tier teams in the conference. So I think that unit has got to take a step forward there. We knew they weren't going to be what they were last year. So as far as expectations for me, I actually thought they might be in the minority here, but I thought they were a little bit better than I thought they would be this season. So I gave them a B minus, and I think they had a lot of pressure put on them as a unit with the back end of that defense it wasn't necessarily fair to that unit as a whole this year.
Absolutely. Ruston, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to give them a B also. I felt like overall they didn't play that badly. I felt like injuries were a major issue, and we had guys that were playing very banged up most of the season on the defensive line. Um, we had guys that kept trying to play and kept getting injured mid-game and having to go back out.
Jackson Moy.
Didn't have Jordan Ross for the last game. That just seemed to David Hobbs, like that just seemed to keep happening over and over and over. And I feel like this group, if they had been healthy the whole season, would have been what we expected them to be. And I appreciate the fact that all of them tried to fight through injury and play anyway. That speaks to who they are and the pride they have in what they do. So I'll give them a B for the fact that they just show up every day and scrap, even when it's not ideal.
Great culture unit there, Ruston, to your point, really.
Yeah.
And had anchor of that defense and maybe the team as far as from a culture standpoint. But I'm glad you made that point.
Well, and you think about the first half of the season, Jackson Moy gets injured like the first possession of the first game. So he misses a lot of time first half of the season. David Hobbs isn't even able to play until the 5th or 6th game of the year. And that's your starting 2 defensive tackles. So your starting interior defensive line, you didn't even have really for the first half of the season. A lot of expectations for Joshua Josephs. I think for the most part, he lived up to it.
He was pretty good.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we didn't have Jordan Ross as much as we wanted. I think Elijah Herring really burst onto the scene this year, had a great year. So overall, wait, Elijah or Caleb? I always get them mixed up. It's Caleb, wasn't it?
Caleb, yeah.
I always get the brothers mixed up. So, I mean, overall, I think people have to be somewhat pleased with them. They did not have certainly the season they did a year ago. But, I mean, it was always feast or famine, right? Like we either were just destroying their quarterback or the quarterback was destroying us through the air. And so it was like it was our defensive line was going to do it or wasn't going to get done. With that being said, so I gave him a B overall.
Didn't have a lot of margin for error, Those guys had to get there in like 2 or 3 seconds, or that was kind of it.
Absolutely. Linebacker. This is maybe the toughest for me on the defensive side of the ball to grade. Was this group? Reed, what'd you give the? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give the folks in the comments their defensive line grades. Let's see. Billy said C-. Eric said D line gets a B. The rest of the defense gets a Z.
Minus. C-.
Yeah, Z-. Yeah. Jonathan said B- for the defensive line. They did get gashed in the run game. Tony said C-. They couldn't stop the run. Let's see. Backville Spaghetti said B-/C+. Nolan said B+ when healthy. All right, that's a good point. Well, what about linebackers? Read what you got for them.
Another position where injuries, again, were tough. You lost Aaron Carter there for like a little bit. I think he, to his credit, also played banged up a lot for Tennessee this year. Thought he had a really good year when he was healthy. Really anchored that unit and that defense. You could tell when he was out there and when he wasn't, very clearly, based on how that defense performed. So that's a positive. Edwin Spillman, came on, I think had a lot of good reps, one of the leading tacklers on the team and in the SEC. Outside of those two guys, you're not really sure what you were going to get. Not a ton of depth on that unit, which injuries really revealed. And I think you saw once you got past that D line, that defense started breaking down really quick. And linebacker was a culprit of that. So I gave them a C+, plus for Carter, for Spillman. Everybody else under that average line, definitely below average past them. Though I do like some of the athletes they've got there coming up for potentially for next season. I think that unit could be a lot better. But that was a rough year to watch linebacker play. Another position that I loved growing up watching, obviously Leonard Little, even Kevin Burnett, who I think was getting honored, one of my favorite players of all time when he was healthy. Kevin Simon, he was a scout for the Cowboys when I covered Tennessee. Another guy that battled injuries, but that guy was one of the best linebackers I've ever seen when he was healthy. So I've got all these like fond memories of Eric Westmoreland, going back to really good linebacker play, and even as good as Carter was at times, and Spillman stepping up. You didn't have that level of linebacking play this year from Tennessee. You didn't, as much as I love Carter and what he was able to do.
I mean, think about that 98 crew: Raynoch Thompson, Al Wilson, and Eric Westmoreland. Whew. I mean, come on, that's incredible.
Yeah, that obviously Big Al, SEC and college football legend, but getting back up there, Kevin Burnett, later on, those guys were really, really good, and suffered some devastating knee injuries and came back and were still really good. And I kind of football's changed a lot, since then too. Linebackers are asked to do a lot more out in space than they were. That position's changed a lot, but
absolutely.
I said I was going to be brief, and now I'm like giving an oral history of Tennessee linebacker play. But
I love
it. Those guys. I still have hopes for that position. That's not one of the positions on the defense that I'm worried about long term.
Agreed.
Those guys being banged up didn't help this season.
Ruston, what about you? What about linebackers for you?
Yeah, when you play linebacker, you have 3 jobs: alignment, assignment, and finish. And I thought for the most part all year they did a good job in alignment. There weren't really any busts there. But then it got to the assignment step. And as well as and as aggressively as Edwin Spillman and Jaden Perlotti fly to the ball, they also do so losing their assignment.
The wrong way.
Yes. And they got us gashed multiple times, overplaying and doing too much and not just doing their job. That's something they'll learn. They'll get better at that. And, it's always easier to rein in a Mustang than to try to get a donkey to sprint. So, it's
put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
That's what we should do. Yes.
So
I'm gonna write that down right now. Actually,
I'd buy that one.
It's those guys will get better. I would have given this group a B, except for Arian Carter didn't play enough. I think if he had been able to play more, been healthy, this group probably would have gotten a B, because he does those 3 things. He aligns correctly, he does his assignment, and he finishes tackles. The rest of them, tackling was suspect. You never knew what was going to happen. You didn't know if they were ever going to get them on the ground. So I'll give them a C. I agree. I think this group is going to get better and better over time. Next year, I think they'll probably be one of the best linebacker corps in the country. But it's going to be really important that they learn how to play with speed when it matters and not fly past their assignment.
Well, I just said that is an elite quote, Ruston. It's always easier to rein in a Mustang than it is to make a donkey sprint. Did I get that right? Is that correct?
Yep.
There you go. I wrote it down.
Yeah, I love the point about Carter too, because I really enjoyed watching him play this year. Him blowing up Lagway there against Florida. It's not quite the Leonard Little Auburn, decleating, standing over the guy, but that one will be etched in my memory.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was just really good, and good point too there, Ruston, about I love talking scheme. And I sit there in the corner of the south end zone, so we can a lot of times see from that elevated position where the play is going to go before the ball is snapped either side, and see where the team has an advantage. And linebacking play was alignment was better than it has been. This is for as bad as the defense was. This wasn't a South Sunseri type. What are these guys doing?
Yeah. Blake said Ruston never fails on the quads. Blake also asked if you play in your band, Reed.
Well, I used to before I had kids, and it's a hard schedule for a dad. But
Absolutely.
I do play, get together with the neighbors a couple times a month, and we just jam out and have fun and eat dinner and play songs. So it's a good
That's what I'm
time.
talking about. So my grade for the linebackers, this was really tough because if you compare them to the rest of the country, I mean, I do think they were above average. They should have been. Well, I had high expectations for this group. Unfortunately, it's the thinnest group on the defense, without, as far as depth goes. Jaden Perlotti was a nice surprise this year, but he also was a true freshman, and he played like it sometimes, i.e. Vanderbilt second half. But it's tough because Jeremiah Thielander did not have the year everyone expected him to have. Arion Carter, if he hadn't gotten hurt, may have been the best linebacker in the conference.
Still 10th in tackles in the SEC this season.
And he missed a game and a half. I mean, it's incredible what he was able to do. So it's really a tough deal. Like, I wanted to give him a B, but then I think about how we against, and I know this is recency bias, and I apologize for that, but I think about how the linebackers just kept allowing Pavia to have holes that Mack trucks could drive through, losing contain, losing gap integrity. And I can't give him a B because of that. So I think Reed gave him a C+ as well. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what I gave him as well.
I thought they were a little above average, because of Carter's play largely.
I agree totally.
Also, guys, just a show note. Even though I don't host, we don't collude on these. We don't collude on these.
That's true.
We get the talking points from the boss from Evan, and then we kind of come to our own conclusions and then discuss them. So it's always fun for me to see where you all line up, because I don't know. We haven't.
Welcome to my world.
We aren't cheating off each other's notes during this. So it is kind of fun to see how the interpretations line up for the season.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to what I think. Well, hang on. Somebody said linebackers D in the comments. That's Tony. Jonathan said C+. Let's see here. Audrey said C. Elijah said, he said, I think Inge is a good linebacker coach. I'm not going to be worried about the linebackers as long as he's here. He can recruit well.
Yeah. The man was nominated for the Broyles Award for the top assistant in America twice, and won it one of those times at LSU. He knows what he's doing.
Richard said, my dad's a farmer. Got to tell him that donkey quote. Jonathan said, I don't think Ruston even gets the talking points. Yeah. So
Evan sends them by mail the day
of. This week I texted Reed and Ruston. I think it was on Friday, and I was like, all right, so we're going to do position by position grades. Then we're going to talk about the college football playoff, and then basketball if we have time. I was like, do you think that's doable? I was like, I don't think it's doable, but we'll see. But we may not make it to basketball, but we're going to try. Official Oski Wow Illinois fan in the comments said, ready to lose, Vol fans.
Game already happened, bud.
Well, now he's probably talking about the.
We're talking
Music
about that
City
stupid bowl game. I wish we could just decline that. Iowa State, Kansas State, Baylor, and Notre Dame have all declined their bowl games. I wish we were on that list.
Did you see that? Somebody needs somebody to play.
Yep.
Georgia Southern needs an opponent in the Birmingham Bowl, or
yes.
we could get a team together, hilarious. Guys. If we can get what's the payout? What does it take?
After 7 schools said no, Appalachian State officially accepted tonight.
Okay.
Man,
We're off the hook then. Okay, good. I don't need a
Big
broken
Orange.
spine.
Big Orange just went as Xander doing it live, so I've been talking with him. We're going to make it happen this month. We were talking. I emailed him. Reed Xander Seacrest was in our comments last. Either last show or show before that, I think. Last Sunday is when it was, and so it was cool. Like we didn't believe it was really him at first, and we're like, wait, how do we know this is really you? And so we asked him questions, and turns out it actually was him. So we're emailing with him now, trying to set up a time for him to join us. Pretty cool.
Heck yeah, that's cool.
Well, everybody's favorite segment now, the secondary, and to the 481 people watching across all three platforms, we really appreciate you. Just jumped up to 482. We appreciate Reed joining us. For anybody who hasn't heard yet, last time I said this, there were less than half of these amount of people watching. We surprised Reed tonight. Any super chat we get tonight is going straight to Reed. We really appreciate him joining us. So we appreciate all his time. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. You are not going to win. That's ridiculous. 63-7. Tennessee has one of the best offenses in the country.
We gotta wait to see who opts in and out.
Well,
I was about to say
that's a good.
It's going to be a glorified scrimmage among both teams' third stringers. Like it's a waste of time.
Like a spring game.
Yeah.
Carl said he was hoping they go to Tampa. That's where Carl's from.
Warm weather bowl game will get me there usually.
You're not expecting warm weather in December in Nashville?
Correct. Bring your own sauna.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Reed, we're going to do the secondary. We're going to combine corners and safeties into one group and just say the secondary. So with that being said, what grade did you give them?
Well, the dark part of the show, I should turn the lights out for this.
Hey, Carl, thank you, buddy. Carl just gave a $20 super chat. Thank you,
Carl, my man. Appreciate you, Carl. Enjoy following you on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, I've got it. This is hard. This was harder than I thought to do as I went through the thought process of this, guys. Because initially you think it's got to be an F, right? Like this secondary, one of the worst. Pass defenses Tennessee's had in a long time. One of the worst. You had that injury luck, but the secondary also took terrible angles. Safeties were really bad at tackling. I would give the safeties, if we broke them out, an F for sure. But I do think you had a bright spot in Ty Redmond. I thought he got better as the season went on. He was fourth in the SEC in interceptions this year. Ty Redmond, true freshman.
Wow.
I didn't expect him to be as good as he was, and I know he got picked on at Georgia, and you expect that as a true freshman, and also Gunnar Stockton just threw some dang dimes. So, liked Ty Redmond. He brought that grade up for me. Colton Hood, again, somebody that we talked about early in the year, guys. I was expecting to be kind of one of the best players on the team. Didn't expect him to have to be corner one, though, for the year. So these guys were put in a really bad spot from the get-go when we talk about corners, given how they were forced into action, and then you lose Boo Carter also. I thought Redmond and Hood really, and I had high expectations for Hood, exceeded my expectations. The safeties were really bad. And outside of Redmond and Hood, the corners were really bad. So I give those guys, if I could break it out, I give Redmond and Hood a B, and I give everybody else an F. So that takes me down to a D for this unit, because I do think, as bad as it was at times, those two guys were bright spots, and they turns out they can't defend all of the other pass catchers on the opponent. They can only defend their assignment. So I thought those guys were good, but it's a D. I could go higher, I could go lower, but that's where I settled. Safeties. When's the last time Tennessee had a safety we felt really good about? It feels like a long time ago as a thought process for me. And That position is the one on the team that I think consistently has to get just a lot better, because we've seen the corners really excel last year, and then again, even Redmond and Hood this year at times. Safeties have been a massive liability on this team.
Absolutely. What about you, Ruston?
Yeah, there were only two secondaries in the SEC worse than ours, Kentucky and Mississippi State. So, yeah, that's going to get you a D every day of the week. And honestly, it would have been an F if Colton Hood hadn't been out there. Unfortunately, it goes back to injuries again. You know, we talked about it back mid-season. We didn't just have 2 starters missing. We really had 4 out of 5 missing, because those 2 shuffled everything else. And I would have liked to have seen a full season of McCoy and Gibson at the corners, Colton Hood at the nickel, which would have allowed them to move Jalen McMurray back to a safety. Idris Farouk did an okay job. He could have rotated back there. Andre Turrentine could have rotated. He wouldn't be out there all the time. Boo Carter could have moved back to safety where he wouldn't
Jordan
have to
Thomas.
think. I mean, it's a completely different defense if those guys are out there.
100%.
Might be second, top 3 in the SEC. And we're probably sitting at 11-1 right now. So, unfortunately, those 2 guys were gone, and it just didn't pan out.
I think if you any team in the country, you lose 3 of your top 4 defensive backs, what's your defense going to look like?
Yeah,
absolutely.
But you have to grade the players that are out there. So
exactly, that was the toughest part to me. Was, I felt bad for these dudes because they got put literally in positions they weren't expecting to play. So I felt bad for them in that regard. So that might have skewed my grade a little bit. But then I thought, it's still, that's the positions they were put in. Like, you got to grade them in that spot. And, to Rustin's point, going into this season, the expected starting 5 in the back end were going to be McCoy and Gibson at the corners, Colton Hood at the star, and then at safety, Jordan Thomas. And then you had
probably Boo.
Yeah, probably Boo Carter. You had a plethora of other options back there for that last spot. It would have either been, you would have had Boo Carter, Idris Farouk, Andre Turrentine, Jalen McMurray, all these different people you could plug in there. What ended up happening was Colton Hood and Ty Redmond, a true freshman, being starting at corner. Andre Turrentine now is your most experienced safety. Well, that's a problem. Then you've got Idris Farouk, who's only in his, essentially the second year on the field with the program. And then, Jalen McMurray sliding over to the star. So it was kind of doomed from the beginning back there, but there's no way, in my opinion, to give him an F, because that discredits what Colton Hood did. Like, just him alone, that guy alone, he was on no one's radar coming into this season, and now he might have worked himself into a first or second round draft pick in one season. The guy was phenomenal this year. Ty Redmond, poor kid, gets thrown to the Wolves. 3rd game of the season is against Georgia. So his 3rd game of his collegiate career is against, the team who won the SEC. And he took some lumps at the beginning of the year, because who wouldn't? But by the end of the year, like you said, Reed, 4th in the SEC in interceptions, because people were going to pick on him because they didn't want to throw at Colton Hood. So he was going to get a lot of targets. And to his credit, how many times over the last 10 years of Tennessee football have all of Vol Nation said, why will our defensive backs not turn their head and find the ball? How many times have we said that over and over and over? Well, his interception against Vanderbilt. He reads the receiver's eyes, turns his head, finds the ball, and intercepts it. It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Great play. Reminded me of McCoy.
Absolutely. So those two dudes alone bring the grade of the whole group up. I mean, they had overall great years. But man, the rest of it just wasn't good. Like, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it just was not good. We were picked apart through the year, through the air all year long. So overall, I gave them
the safeties too. Was not good.
And so, you consider them compared to nationally, like what is average? Well, they certainly weren't average, because we were like plus like 100 something in passing defense, and there's only 133 teams, so that didn't work out. So I went with a D because I couldn't give them an F because of Colton Hood and Ty Redmond. But I couldn't go average either because they weren't average. So I went in the middle and went with D. Blake said F minus. Elijah gave him a D as well. Blake said, how could it not be an F? Hopefully we answered that a little bit. Let's see here. Jeff said, I give him a C. I thought the corners did pretty solid, but safeties really struggled. And Star was about average. Yep. Understand.
To those corners credit, guys, I do think it's a bit like, I don't know if you have that recurring dream where you show up to a final exam where you haven't studied, or you got to get up and give a speech spur of the moment and you haven't prepared. Like we had this happen the other day at church where the pastor was sick and somebody had to get up and give his sermon for him. That's those guys. They were just getting thrown into the fire. They weren't. They were not expected to be that and to be in that role. And to their credit, I thought corners really, you didn't see a lot of missed assignments from the corners. You didn't see a lot of giant coverage busts or anything like that. Those came from the safeties. I thought even when they got beat, you think about that Georgia throw, Redmond made him put that in a tiny little box. He was not open. That was a great throw.
Absolutely.
It was well defended, honestly. I thought those guys, looking back on the season, and I used to go back and kind of grade tape and do all that when I covered the team, and didn't do that this year, but I did watch replays a lot. And I don't think the corners, even though they were all kind of out of position and new to their spots this year, I don't think they were as bad as the numbers belie.
Totally agree. Blake said, do you think McCoy comes back or in the NFL? He is gone. Unfortunately, he will be a late first round, early second round draft pick. So he's gone, which is very sad for.
When Gibson went down that first game and saw it was a shoulder, that I was, as good as Tennessee looked against Syracuse, I was really worried about the rest of the season, because I think he was on his way to an all SEC type year, honestly. And you lost two of those guys, and then a freshman all SEC in Boo Carter performer. It's just hard to recover from that, and that's not making excuses. It is what it is.
Absolutely. We got a good question here about how many starters do we need next year from the defense from the portal. We'll get to that in just a moment. Last position group, special teams. This was the least fun group, in my opinion. Reed, how'd you grade the special teams?
This is a weird year, I think, for that unit.
Thanks for the super chat, Carl. Rugby school.
Yeah,
they're in the national championship. He's right.
Again. I think those guys could probably tackle and take some angles. So special teams, that was a weird. Tennessee's done a really, really good job, to Heupel's credit, and this doesn't go noticed as much. But I write about the team every year, so I have to kind of look into all the in between plays, and a third of the game technically special teams. Tennessee's been one of the best kick and punt coverage teams in the country since Heupel got here, not just in the SEC, in the country, and they were again this year one of the best kick coverage teams in the country. Punt coverage was really good. Outside of that, Tennessee this has kind of surprised me. They were first in kick return average, but they only returned 8 kicks.
Mm-hmm.
In the conference, talking conference numbers, but so I'm sure they've got some analytics they're looking at about where you catch the ball and when you're returning it. When they chose to return one, they were the best in the conference. They did not choose to return one very often, and those are probably related choices, right? But that's efficient. We'll take it. So kick coverage, punt coverage, kick return, all pluses. Punting was middle of the pack. I thought nailed off some good punts when they needed to at times. Punt returns were bad, and you had a revolving door back there, muffing punts. Again, kind of, it's not necessarily injuries, but the instability of Boo Carter there really cost the team. But what should have been a bright spot for the program this year. And then field goal kicking last, that was big. So you had field goals cost you at least a game. You had muff punts really could have cost you some games. Special teams can't do that. It can't do that at this level if you're going to be a top 10-ish team. And that's one of the reasons why Tennessee was not a top 10-ish team. So all that to say, I gave them the same grade I gave the secondary, which was a D. You can't have game-killing plays in special teams. You cannot have it. Not to be at the level that Tennessee expects to be at. And this year was a big disappointment for me, from what has been a really good unit in the Heupel era.
Yeah, agreed. Ruston, what about you?
Exact same answer. He said literally everything I was going to say.
I did hack into your notes.
I went with a C- because, our punter is ambipedal, and that's just fun to say. We do have, he made some great punts, down within the 1 yard line a couple times. Our kicker statistically this is what blows my mind. Statistically, Max Gilbert is the best kicker in the history of Tennessee football.
Oh.
But he missed 3 massively important kicks this year. We just talked about Georgia, the team that won the SEC. We should have beat them. We were literally 7 feet away from beating them. A ball 7 feet to the left, and we win the game. Just unbelievable. So did they do anything special? No. We ran 0 fake punts the whole year long. That is not even a thing anymore, apparently, in Tennessee football. Even though we were teased about it 2 years ago by Mike Eckler.
It's supposed to have a good arm too.
Yeah, exactly. They said Joe Milton was the only person with a better arm than him.
Maybe playing quarterback for the Music City Bowl.
Yeah. It's nothing special. We fair caught everything, it seemed like. And part of that was because Carter didn't want to run. So with all that being said, I gave him a C- just because it was just kind of like a year for the special teams. It says J Cart 29, so it doesn't show me names anymore. I remember this profile photo, but I cannot remember the name to save my life, and that's killing me. You got to let me know your name, buddy, because it's killing me that I can't remember it because I know this profile photo. Says it can't be higher than a C. Special teams probably cost you 2 games of the 4 you lost. It is what it is. I have to make kicks in crunch time. Yep.
I asked Ohio State about that.
Yep. Audrey said it was a C. Jonathan said special teams was a C. Nothing really special happened. That's true. Missed some big field goals. Jeff said long snapper had a great play once. That's true. He did.
Don't sleep on the
Blake
long
said,
snappers.
Josh, that's what it was. I'm sorry, man.
Josh.
I knew. I was like, it's
Josh Carter. Is that it?
I bet you're right. I bet that's it. Blake said, did they ever check Max Gilbert's FanDuel account after the Georgia game? Well, last one, coaching. Reed, how are you going to grade the coaches?
Yeah, that's a hard one too, given all that we talked about injuries, at the position, and I think I really liked. I'll go positives first. Big picture, positives. Loved what Heupel did in the offensive staff in the offseason to really overhaul the offense. You're not seeing those wide splits, wide choice looks all the time like you did previously. Saw multiple new formations, personnel sets, plays. You don't see that happen a lot, at this level with these guys that have been successful. Realize, we got to change the offense. I think it was Kelsey Pope who talked about it, but it was evident in the first game when they come out in all these sets and formations and personnel groups that I haven't seen Heupel ever run. And it got me excited about Georgia, and it was the first year that Tennessee should have beat Georgia. It was even competitive with Georgia in Heupel's era. Took it to Florida. Florida had nothing for Tennessee. So lots of positives there. I think for the long-term trajectory of the program, I really like their willingness to just overhaul the offense, because that was going to have to happen after the Ohio State game, after what Georgia was able to do to Tennessee in previous seasons. So that's a big plus for me. Getting Joey ready, obviously, the receivers, whole new offensive line, running backs, really loved what Heupel did with the offensive side of the ball. There were some play calls that I didn't love in key spots. I didn't like some of the philosophically things. I miss go for the jugular Heupel, so if we're talking negatives, I'm going to take some points away there. I want the Heupel that wants to step on your throat and take the game from you back. I want him to find that again. So that would be my negative for him this year. And then, I had the team guys when we did the preseason show at 9-3. This team easily could have been 10-2, 11-1. This team shouldn't have been 8-4. So I think execution in key spots, some play calls, some philosophical things in key spots, and then injuries just really devastated the defense. So, I'm giving, if I thought Tennessee was going to go 9-3 and have a shot to go 10-2, and that would have been an A to be in the playoff hunt. I'll give Heupel a B- this year. I think some of that is for the ability to overhaul the offense and what they're able to do on that side of the ball. Defensively, he's got to figure some things out on that side, whether that's staff changes, being more involved on that side. New defensive coordinator, which I don't think will happen, but could be wrong. They're going to have to step up their game on the defensive side for sure. And that's just, program stuff, not necessarily game day stuff that's on his plate specifically. It was a weird year. I felt like this team had a lot more potential than 8-4. And when I picked him to go 9-3 before the year, offensively they were, and I thought Joey would be a lot better than Nico, and the offense would be better than it was the previous season. When I saw what they did against Georgia and stuff, that changed our expectations for the season, right? We thought, oh man, this team has got a great shot to go 10-2 and get in the playoff, and they did. And it just, a lot of breaks didn't go their way. Not super concerned about the overall trajectory of the program like maybe some people are.
Carl totally agreed with you. Ruston, what was your grade for the coaching of this season?
Yeah, I gave him a C. Predicted 10-2 before the season started. You finished 8-4. Should have been 10-2. offensively, I give them a B. Very surprised by a few games, including the last one. Why we just got away from creativity and went back to our base stuff in key moments. Don't get that. And so that bumped me down to a B on offense. The defense was a D. You had some bright spots on the defensive line. You had a bright spot at corner in one guy. The linebacking core was good at times. So, I would average it all out to a C.
Yeah, that's what was tough was because, there are such great moments where you're like, man, that was just phenomenal coaching. Like they come out against Georgia and, they're running stuff that we've never even seen. And same thing against Syracuse. They have more formations against Syracuse in one game than the whole season last year. They come out and do all these amazing things. You're like, man, they're such great coaches. And then stuff like Vanderbilt happens, and you're like, what in the world? I'm trying so hard not to let recency bias impact my decision on this, but I can't not get past what happened on defense against Vanderbilt, because there's so many times that you can say, well, it's just execution or that kind of thing. And it's hard to put it on coaching, but if Diego Pavia escapes the pocket once or twice, you know what? Good for him. That was on us. But the fact that we kept letting it happen over and over, and when you get to the 8th, 9th, 10th time that it's happening, somebody has to say, hey, stop getting out of your lanes. Maintain gap integrity. Don't let him escape. And apparently nobody said that, because it was just the same thing over and over and over. Even late into the fourth quarter, Jaden Perlotti goes way out of his lane, gives him wide open space. It's 3rd and 9 at the time. It gets a 20-yard run out of it. So I can't ignore that, which is why overall I gave him a C, because we did it's all balancing out. Like we did some really great things, and then we did some things that I'm just like, that's inexcusable. Why is that happening? And so I balanced it out at a C. That's the best I could do.
That consistency, guys, like I think you both highlighted, just wasn't there this year.
Yep. Absolutely.
On either side of the ball, right?
Absolutely.
Second half adjustments were really poor on both sides. Opening script continues to be elite for Tennessee, but it's got to get. They've got to get better on the in game adjustments, second half
Absolutely.
adjustments. Vandy beat them there. Oklahoma beat them there. Georgia beat them there. So you can say it's talent, but if you're taking it to them in the first half and in the second half, everything falls apart. I think that's more on the coaches.
100%. Yep. John said overall B- for coaches. If I could go lower than C- for strength and conditioning coaches, I would. Let's see here. Tony said coaches get a B on offense. Heupel can't manage the clock and didn't go for the throat. Defense coach gets F.
I miss that. Tony. I miss the jugular Heupel. I don't know if expectations have gotten to him, if he doesn't feel like he's the underdog now, so he's got to play it safe, or what's going on psychologically there. But he's got to get that back, because that's what made him him.
Absolutely. Jonathan said, after Pavia ran up the middle for the 40th time, I really thought they might change something. Yeah, me too, buddy. Me too.
Any one of us could have run through those lanes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not kidding.
Saying something.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like, we could have done it.
Yep. Josh said it's not a talent issue at all. It's coaching now. We have the 12th highest blue chip roster in the sport. After this recruiting class, it's going to be top 10. Yeah, I got to start doing something with it, right? Well, speaking of doing something with the talent, Kirk Cignetti is now maybe pulled off the best turnaround in college football history of a program. He is also the number 1 ranked team going into the college football playoff. And so what we are going to do is we're going to give you our predictions for the entire bracket. We're going to start with Reed. Reed, if you don't mind just going through, column by column, that would be awesome. I got them all lined up for you.
I'll go quick. And to your point about Cignetti, 18th out of 18 teams in talent rankings in the Big Ten.
Pretty incredible.
Number one in the country. Number one in the
Dave
country.
Bartu coach effect numbers. I'm fascinated to see those.
I've never ever seen anything like it in the sport. Period. They did not have a double-digit win season in the history of their program, and he had one last year and is 13-0 this year.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. It's really. I watched that game, even though it really didn't matter last night, and wow, Google me. Yep. Yeah, he came in talking a bunch of smack, said Purdue sucks, Ohio State sucks, just going on, and he backed it up. I mean, I
backed it up. Yeah,
I want that Heupel back.
Amen.
But yeah, unbelievable. So, yeah, hey, good. JMU's a good story. Cool. Oregon's going to win that game. Alabama, Oklahoma is a tough one. Rematch. I don't understand necessarily the committee at all, but even their seating choices. You're setting up an Ole Miss Georgia, round 2 matchup, and you've got Alabama and Oklahoma rematch from earlier in the year. I don't know how compelling, that I don't know. I don't know if that's good for ratings or bad for ratings. I do not believe in Alabama right now. I really don't. And then again, not trying to let recency bias. They've gotten worse as the year's gone on. I don't think you can argue that. So, and Oklahoma has just made enough plays every time of late, and so I'm going Oklahoma in that one. Ole Miss is going to beat Tulane even without Kiffin. And I've got go ahead. I got Miami over Texas A&M. I don't know. I feel like I had to go an upset in the first round. That's the most likely one for me. I think they're going to be motivated. Elko's a great story, but and then Oregon, Texas Tech. That's a fun one. All that oil money. Let's see how far they can get. Texas Tech has looked legit. But are they as tested as Oregon? I don't think so. Oregon underachieved this year, probably. Relative to their expectations thus far. But I think Lanning's a really good coach. He's going to figure it out. I got Oregon. Now, man, this one was tough because I really like Indiana. I love Oklahoma's defense, though. And we just saw Indiana, win a game 13-10. It's going to be that type of game again. It's going to be a slugfest. And I've got them in that one. Wouldn't be super surprised to see Oklahoma win that game, though. Wouldn't be super surprised to see them win that. Material's getting healthier if he can get his arm back in shape. Yeah, Ole Miss Georgia rematch. Ole Miss wasn't winning that game with Kiffin. They're not going to win it without Kiffin. Going Bulldogs, kill me. And then Ohio State is going to beat Miami. So yeah, no surprises thus far. Talent usually wins out. And then I've got Oregon over Indiana. I think the Cignetti luck runs out. Not luck. I think Oregon can beat them. I think they've got too much firepower. I'm going to go Georgia over Ohio State. That's going to be a great game.
Absolutely.
I want both teams to lose that game, but it'll be a great game. And then I hate myself for this more than you can imagine. That I've got Georgia over Oregon. I think Gunnar Stockton has been the best quarterback in the country when it's mattered. I really think so. They've got holes. They're not as good as the previous Georgia teams, but I hate it. I hate that Tennessee should have beaten this team. They're the best team in the best conference in college football. So I've got them winning it all. And I want to drown myself in the Tennessee River.
Well, I know how hard that was for you to pick because my favorite Reed Carringer quote ever was when you were talking about Athens and your distaste for Athens, and you said grown men bark at you like dogs there. It's like, there you go.
I couldn't live there. Yeah, because it's not living that you're doing if it feels like dying.
Timothy, welcome back. Thank you so much, buddy, for that super chat. That is awesome. He said
Hey,
it's the
thanks,
coach's
man.
fault. Absolutely. He said it's the coach's fault when they're or why are they paying players? The players should have been taught how to tackle, block, pass, and catch, etc. Is it the coach's fault or are players slow on the uptake? He said that's something that they should have been taught in high school, youth to high school football.
The safeties, Timothy, are my only, and I mean you can get into special teams too. Those are my two spots that I think really need an upgrade in coaching. Now Tim Banks coaches the safeties, so that's a bigger change for Tennessee than maybe they're willing to make. But
yep. All right. Well, Ruston, let's get your take here, and I'm going to take screenshots of these and post them tomorrow so everybody sees what our picks are.
Oh no, don't.
Before I go down this list, I'm just going to say this. I hate this. I hope that this creates absolute chaos. I hope the entire organization unfolds around them and they are forced to scrap this stupid playoff and their stupid rules about how they decide who's in this. And they scrap their stupid calendar that makes every other game completely pointless. If they want bowl games to matter, they have to change the calendar because right now they don't, and they're not going to. And it doesn't matter how much fan bases want them to; they're going to suck. Could not care less about a meaningless game against a bad Illinois team in Nashville. Don't care. People are talking about, well, you get 15 extra practices. So what? Every guy who's going to the NFL draft or is graduating, they're not practicing. Every guy who's considering transferring, they're not practicing. Every guy who's opting out of the bowl game, they're not practicing. So that leaves you with like 40 dudes of your second and third stringers who, okay, it's good reps for them, but it doesn't help you moving forward. So it's a waste of time. And the game's going to be meaningless, and people are going to be aggravated because neither team's going to play well. And it's stupid. And it all could be avoided if the NCAA would just get their heads out of their butts and stop doing this, because this is ignorant. How any committee can sit in a room and go, yeah, let's let James Madison and Tulane into the playoffs because our stupid rules say we have to. Heaven forbid that we, I don't know, use the AP poll that we've used the entire season and just go, hey, let's just take the 12 best teams. Crazy concept. And the beauty of that is if they had done that, Vanderbilt still doesn't get in. So, it's great all the way around. So this is stupid. It's pointless. The two best teams are on the same side of the bracket. Because I'm just going to tell you right now, Indiana's a great story. It's lovely. Kurt Cignetti's doing a wonderful job. Ohio State didn't play hard in the Big Ten championship. They ran base stuff the whole game. They stayed as vanilla as humanly possible because they knew if they end up playing Indiana again in the national championship, they would show up and play that one for real. So, anybody who watched that game, you can't tell me that, Ohio State was running their best stuff. Like, that was the most vanilla, basic, they took a gamble. They took a gamble that they would end up playing them again. I don't think they thought it through well. They should have figured out how to score one more touchdown so they wouldn't be on the same side of the bracket as Georgia. But the real national championship is going to happen in the semifinals. So, it's just the whole thing's stupid and pointless. So Oregon's going to wax James Madison because they shouldn't be there. Oklahoma's going to beat Alabama because it's in Oklahoma. They're equal teams. Home team's going to win. Ole Miss will wax Tulane because they shouldn't be there. A&M will beat Miami because it's in Kyle Field. So, you're not going in there and winning. Oregon, Texas Tech, in my opinion, is a coin toss. Texas Tech went out and spent a ton of money in NIL. They got a couple of billionaires that are just writing blank checks left and right. So they match Oregon money-wise. I don't even remember who I picked there because it doesn't matter.
Oregon.
Okay, great. Don't care. Because whoever wins that game's losing the next one. Indiana's going to beat Oklahoma. Georgia's going to wax Ole Miss because Ole Miss is in shambles right now. Ohio State will beat Texas A&M because they're the better team. Indiana will beat Oregon because they're the better team and Oregon's overrated. The national championship happens right there. I wouldn't bet against Kirby at all right now. Georgia's playing extremely well. And before the season ever started, I predicted Georgia's going to win the national championship. So there you are.
There you go. Blake said, "Did Ruston not eat dinner yet?"
we can drown ourselves together, Ruston, like Romeo and Juliet in the Tennessee River.
I hate this entire thing. It is stupid, and it all could have been avoided if people had just used a little common sense. And what makes it even more frustrating and infuriating is the NCAA already does this at every other level. Why do we change it for this level? It's stupid. Makes no sense.
It's a worse product. It's a worse product. It's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the players. It's not going to make more money than like a sane format would. And two, Rustin, like I'm 100% like you need to cut that rant out, Evan, and post it and maybe mail like a DVD to the committee because they probably don't know how to check a link. But I think I'm not a Notre Dame apologist. You can't tell me that's not one of the top 12 teams in the daggum country.
Right.
And they made the finals last year. I think they're better this year. I really do. I think they're a better football team. They're playing their best. Like I don't. It's and you can't have conference championships counting, not counting, affecting seeding, not affecting seeding, not moving seeding. You can't have them either helping your seeding, hurting your seeding, or not affecting your seeding, depending on the logo on your helmet. You cannot have that.
Here's how bad this calendar is and how much it has ruined bowl season. The Big 12 just literally an hour ago just fined Kansas State and Iowa State $500,000 each for declining the bowl. And they both said, no problem, we'll pay it. That's how little they cared about this.
Josh, thank you so much for that super chat, buddy. He said, is Heupel going to have the stones to get a Sam Levitt or experienced quarterback in the portal? I can't imagine GMAC or Faison playing against that schedule next year. If they do, I fully expect 7-5 or 6-6. I think they have to get. They are going to get a quarterback.
I'm with you, Josh. I'd love to see another second-year Heupel quarterback. We haven't had that since 2022 Hendon, which was one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the program. But they're going to have to get somebody. You don't want to be rolling in there with a true or redshirt freshman playing their first significant football especially after you went 8-4. Also, not that necessarily they think like that, but
in a 9-conference game season.
And the schedule next year, I'm sure we will talk about that in the future, guys, but it is brutal.
Yes, it is.
Brutal.
Yes, it is. 100%.
No, they will try, Josh. I guess they're gonna try for sure.
Jonathan said, I could be wrong, but I think Ruston thinks the playoffs this year and the format they have is stupid. I could be wrong though.
I like ticked off Ruston. I think we need a Ruston's rant segment weekly. If you could just post like a 3-minute rant, and it could be on any topic you want, Ruston. I think the NCAA
I will subscribe to that. Out their stupidity.
I know, but it could be on other things. I just want to know. I want a Ruston's rant once a week, maybe once a month. I don't know.
The only thing that really gets me fired up is crap like this, where they just do incredibly stupid things for the sake of being stupid. Like it's so avoidable.
Our favorite sport is run by imbeciles. I mean, period.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's period.
100%. So Blake made a comment here, and I'm going to put his on the screen because before I reveal my bracket, this is my thoughts exactly. He said the whole playoffs thing is a joke. It's corrupt. BYU loses and gets punished. Bama gets destroyed and doesn't get punished. And so that's what Reed was alluding to earlier. That's my thing. People are talking about, Notre Dame, how they got, snubbed and everything. BYU has the biggest gripe of any team in the country, in my opinion, because the committee simultaneously made a statement today saying that conference championships game matter, but they also don't matter.
Notre Dame didn't play at all and got punished. Like it makes no sense.
Yes, exactly. Miami
but
and
Notre Dame
neither
didn't
one
play
of
at
them.
all. Miami didn't play at all and got rewarded.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Notre Dame didn't play, got punished. Miami didn't play, got rewarded. BYU lost the conference championship, got demoted. Alabama lost the conference championship. It didn't move.
Yeah,
but we all know
exactly
why Miami got rewarded, and I wish they'd just been honest about it and said, "Hey, look, we can't have a playoff without an ACC team. Like it's a Power 4 conference. We got to have one." But no, they don't go and say that.
Jonathan agrees with Reed. He said we need that segment weekly. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal.
Ruston's rant, get it trending.
Hashtag Ruston's rant. I mean, here's the thing. Miami and Notre Dame, nothing changed from Tuesday. Nothing changed, and yet they flipped them. Why did they not have them flip on Tuesday? Exactly.
They didn't play. BYU was in the field, lost out of the field. Alabama was in the field, lost, didn't move.
Yep.
The point is, it does like the point is that it's not supposed to make sense. That's the point. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about Ohio State, for example. What if they had opted out of that national or that conference championship game? They would be the number 1 team in the country, and they would not have to play Georgia in the semifinals. But instead, they played the conference championship game. It negatively impacted them, and now they have to play Georgia in the semifinals.
Back before this format, guys, my dad, we always talked about how when the SEC was in divisions, East and West, how we did not want to play in the SEC championship game and lose. Because it was that way before. They punished you then. Remember? Like we'd get to some crappy bowl, get to the SEC championship, lose, go to some crappy bowl. If we were somehow not in the SEC championship, didn't play, we got to a better bowl. It just never made sense. It has never made sense. It's never going to make sense.
And with Alabama and BYU, the committee's trying to say, well, we set a precedent last year that there's no teams playing in conference championship games should not be penalized for playing in that game. And so they upheld that with Alabama. They didn't penalize them. They kept them in the field. BYU got totally punished for playing in their game because you think about it like this. BYU finished the regular season with 1 loss. That 1 loss was to the team that's currently ranked number 4 and the team that has a first round bye in the playoff. That was their only loss. Miami, Alabama, both of those teams, Oklahoma, 3 teams there all finished the regular season with 2 losses. They all had a worse record than BYU. BYU plays in their conference championship game and it knocks them out of the playoff in favor of these other teams that actually had worse records. I mean, how can the committee, how can they justify saying, well, the conference, we're not going to penalize teams for playing conference championship games. Just ignore what happened to Ohio State and BYU. You know what I'm saying? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
SMU Clemson last year, ACC title game. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big talking point. It's not a new thing, and they ended up both getting in. But it just it's wild. It's wild. I think this offseason it'll change. I really do.
I think it's going to have to. Yep.
I don't think they have a choice.
Josh, thank you for that super chat. He said, is Tennessee 2022 still the only team to end up behind a team they beat on the field, Alabama? Yeah. Somebody in Tuscaloosa's got some blackmail stuff on some people in the playoff committee.
Money.
Yep, absolutely. With that being said, here are my picks. I think Oregon beats James Madison. As happy as I am from James Madison that they're in it, they shouldn't be in it. Oregon's going to demolish them. I do think Oklahoma beats Alabama in Norman. I think that's going to be a great game. That'll be the first game of the playoff, actually. It's the Friday night, the 19th, I believe. Ole Miss is going to beat Tulane. They beat them by 5 touchdowns earlier this season. I don't think it's going to be that much, but I just still think they do beat them. And then A&M is going to beat Miami. I think Miami doesn't even deserve to be in the playoff personally. They are not good enough, in my opinion. In the second round, whoa, what a game, baby. Oregon, Texas Tech. I think the NIL money wins, and I think they move on. BYU's head coach, I can't even pronounce his name. He said they're the best team. Texas Tech's the best team in the country. He's like, just watch and see. I think that I'm going to take his word for it. I'm going to go with him there. I think Indiana beats Oklahoma. I think Georgia beats Ole Miss. And I think Ohio State beats A&M. And so as you look at the Final Four here, you've got 2 Big Ten teams, 1 SEC and 1 Big 12 team. Also, the 4 highest ranked teams. So if this ends up happening and these are the 4 that advance, I think that would be the playoff committee's dream scenario, because they say, well, it all worked out after all, I think this is their dream. They're hoping that this happens. The Indiana Texas Tech game is fascinating to me. Ultimately, I think Indiana's defense wins out. And I think we have a Big Ten championship rematch in the national championship game. And I think Ohio State wins it this time. So I'm going with back-to-back. I'm going Ohio State back-to-back champs. That is my prediction for this playoff. But I think more than anything, yes, obviously this college football is going to be fun to watch. But this playoff bracket that we're looking at right now, I think this playoff bracket is what is going to produce the change from next year onward.
It can't just be the bracket, though. They've got to change the calendar too.
Correct.
But I'm wondering if this even impacts conference championship games moving forward. Because, like I said, Ohio State and BYU were negatively impacted by their conference championship games this season. So Ohio State's got a lot of money. That could pull some weight as far as changing. But TV endorsement deals and stuff with conference championship games also bring in a lot of money. So that's going to be the thing that's going to be hard to change.
And like to Rustin's point, you got to change the transfer portal schedule. And I'm a fan of having an NFL type window for coaching changes and interviews. I think it's you had teams fire their coaches in week 3. That devastates the fan base, the players, and they didn't hire anybody until yesterday. It's not. How is that good for your product? How is that good for your players? How is that good for your fans? It's not. And that doesn't happen if you have a window when you can interview and hire coaches, just like the NFL. That does not happen. That needs to change. The coaching hiring window needs to be installed. You need the transfer portal has to change. conference championships either have to go away or be incorporated into the playoff bracket somehow. There are a lot of
that's a good idea.
very common sense, easy fixes, on paper. And don't act like they can't just change. They'll say contracts, blah 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 format. They changed it this year, right? You didn't have the 5 conference champions that were highest ranked. You didn't have the top 4 of the 5 getting auto bids like you did last year. They changed that. They've shown a willingness to change, just not on the big scale that they need to. Last year, you remember the seeds for the teams that played in the national championship? 7 and 8.
Yep.
7 and 8, and that was enough to make them change. Oh, well, we don't need Arizona State getting a bye. They don't deserve that. It's the whole calendar. To Rustin's point, has to change. It can't just be the playoff. And then maybe you can get back to some of these bowls actually mattering again.
And again, it's just common sense. Like, it's not hard. The schedule that they need to move to is almost exactly what the NFL already has. So just adopt their calendar, tweak it a little bit to fit your needs, and it's done. It'll make the bowl games better. It'll make coaches stay. It'll make the transfer portal happen in times that don't affect every game. It just makes too much sense, and I don't understand why they keep trying to reinvent the wheel. You've got it sitting right there. Just do what the NFL does.
They're acting like they're not an NFL model while slowly moving toward an NFL model. It's pretty clear this is NFL minor leagues we're talking about. I mean, when you talk about money, product on the field, athletes, for them to not, hey, let's learn a lesson from the most successful sporting league in the U.S. We don't want to do that. We got to be too cute and overthink it. I don't get it. Imbeciles.
Yep. Blake said, what if you opt out of conference championship games? So the conferences, I'm sure, won't let that happen, but I think that actually might be the first thing that has to happen in order for stuff to change.
I don't know about that. I mean, look what happened tonight. Kansas State and Iowa State just said, yeah, we'll pay you $500,000. We're not playing.
Rebel Juice said they'll try to fix it by adding more teams to the playoffs. You're probably right. That probably will be one of the next steps. Yep. Absolutely.
Again,
already being floated by the Big Ten.
Yep.
They already have a system, and they've been doing it for years and years and years in the NCAA. Why is it so hard to just do what every other division is doing? I don't understand that.
Josh said somebody had a great idea. Move football season up a week or two. Crown your champion on January 1st. Then you have National Signing Day in the portal after January 1st.
And it lines up with school schedules, like we're acting like these guys go to class. But it's but it does. I mean, that's one of the arguments against changing it as well. They've got class and blah blah blah. It's like, well, do they? Number one. Number two, just move it up a couple weeks. Don't take this extended break. It's already there. It's already there, like Ruston said.
The other policy that goes with that I really liked was they said, the criticism was, well, what about the 15 bowl practices? Those coaches and players don't care about those 15 practices. Give it to them in the summer. Let them have those 15 practices then. If you qualify for a bowl, you get 2 extra weeks during the summer with your players. They'll take that in a heartbeat over bowl practices.
Well, because then they'll actually have the players that are going to be on their team.
Right.
Because, the famous, I'm not by any means, I'm not an Eli Drinkwitz fan, but his famous quote from a couple of years ago was, it was in February, and they were talking about the upcoming season. He said, nobody can talk about the upcoming season yet. We don't even know who's going to be in our team yet. And it was February.
Yep. I mean, Tennessee, prime example of that. Lose a starting safety and your starting quarterback after spring practice,
Exactly. Well, we didn't get to the basketball talk, but
that's okay.
We got all year.
All mine. Yeah, I can sum mine up with take care of the basketball. That's all I got to say about that, especially for the women's team. Reed, thank you so much for joining us, man. We certainly appreciate you. To the 599 people watching across all 3 platforms, thank you as well.
Hey, I had a great time, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in, for all the comments. Y'all really make it fun. I love it's an interactive show, and love coming back. I'm sure I'll hopefully be back, and we'll talk some round ball, maybe a little baseball coming up as well.
Absolutely. To everybody who commented, I appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't get all of them tonight. I knew it was going to be a packed show. And it was 2 hours long. Sorry about that, Reed.
No, you're good.
Hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols, baby. And we will see all of you very, very soon.